This is the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS show with Jon Impemba and James Grande.
What is going on, everybody? Jon Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS Playbook Show. We have a nice slate here tonight, James. We went into this morning with a lot of unanswered questions. We're here live, 5 p.m. Eastern. Some of those questions have been answered. Luka Doncic officially ruled out. Jimmy Butler ruled out. Some new ones popping up, though. Tyrese Halliburton, a midday questionable. Anthony Simons, a midday questionable there as well. So a lot of news still to come for today's main slate. A lot of news we've gotten already. It should make for an exciting, larger than usual Thursday here in the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an interesting slate. Jaylen Brown ruled out earlier today. Yep. Jason Tatum ruled in after going through shoot around. So there is definitely still a lot to break. We don't know what's going to happen with the Lakers. Everything suggests that they're going to play. They've played a lot of this season, but you never know. Maybe Minnesota rests Karl Anthony Towns today after Dallas rested Luka, right? So. Right. I know Towns with their shoot around as well, and if he can play, he'll probably play. Like there's, free win is a free win here in the NBA, but there's a lot of interesting things still to happen. Vegas is a mess today, because all these people being ruled out and all these games are just like not overly competitive. I mean, even with Jaylen Brown being ruled out, the spread in that game, increased from 16.5 at open to 17.5.
Yeah.
Minnesota, Dallas went from 9.5 to 12.5. I mean, what was the other game? Denver is now 8.5 point favorites. Maybe signed to what's to come with Ja because they opened at 6 and now it's 8.5. Maybe that's just the book saying, well, Denver's home and Denver doesn't lose at home. But hey, man, 2.5 points without anyone being ruled out for Memphis is a lot of points to
Memphis
move.
On a 4-game winning streak since Ja came back too. So like they're certainly riding some momentum. I think the other one here, the Halliburton midday questionable, right. That spread went from Chicago +2 to Chicago -3.
Right.
Here in this one, the game total for that dipped to 236.5. So people seeing the Halliburton news and quickly betting on Chicago here. Now that they have the drum lord back in their lineup, coming off of a 24-25 game there, it should be kind of interesting. Yeah, the Celtics one, I think the line would have moved the other way had Tatum been ruled out. But when Jaylen Brown gets ruled out, they're like, Derek White might be better than him, right? Like, what does it matter when the third or fourth best player in your team gets ruled out, right? I mean, to other people, this would be like if KCP got ruled out for Denver, right? Like they got Porzingis, they got Derek White, they got Drew Holiday, they got Jason Tatum. So what?
Pretty high paid KCP. Let me tell you.
Got a nice little deal at one point in his life too. So
well, I will say, John, I respect everything KCP has done and all the contracts he has made. KCP has never been the highest paid player in the NBA.
That's fair. KCP once cost me $10,000. So the Prince is on time for today's show.
Shout out to you, the Prince. Shout out to you.
Like I said, hopefully we get a lot of this news throughout the day. We can obviously react to it all. I was in the Battle Royal Street, so I got my swap queue just like loaded right now because you never know where these things are going to go. When that Simons news broke, though, I immediately hopped in and just rapid fired a bunch of BRs to get Brogdon. What's your take on Portland now tonight? Maybe no Simons, no Sharp, no Ayton. They got San Antonio. Don't know what that lineup's going to look like. We assume Wemby's going to be a full go since they've already ruled him out for Friday's game. But this is a front end of a back-to-back for San Antonio, which is as dangerous as any other team as back-to-back could be. We could get Brooklyn all over again tonight with the way Popovich handles his rotation. So you could have Brogdon out there running the show with Jeremy Grant. We've seen that once or twice this season.
Yeah, giving Pop more ammo to ruin his rotations is a terrible thing for all of us. So shout out to you, Jock Vaughn, for doing such a thing. Hello, Albert.
Shout out to you for being stone cold correct on what we were going to get, what was going to go down there on the Brooklyn thing. I know I was talking some trash on some of those replacement players that Brooklyn had last night. They all played. DSJ got the 30 minutes. He asked me who I thought would play 30 plus. It's like, Brogdon, Cam J, and I'll give you 2.5 out there. DSJ. It was only DSJ as a starter. Everybody else on the bench came and played a bunch of minutes. So, kudos to you. Pop obviously, certainly can throw that wrench into our system and throw, Dougie McBuckets out there for 30 minutes tonight. Who knows? So
please no. Portland. So the Portland thing, and I think if you want, we could just start with point guard because I think. It's not only Brogdon, because I was looking at the numbers today. First off, if you go over to our ownership, I'm awaiting the next, for an update here. I'm going to provide one soon. Scoot Henderson has been a pretty popular play, irregardless of the Anthony Simons news. Scoot Henderson is a 30% usage. Sans, Simons, Ayton, and Shaedon Sharp this year. Almost a fantasy point per minute. He's obviously significantly cheaper than Malcolm Brogdon.
Has he played with Brogdon yet this year?
Scoot and Brogdon?
Like Scoot, Brogdon on the floor together. Like what's that?
Scoot, Brogdon on the floor together. Let's pull up the...
Nico, what's going on? Happy to have you on the show today. Albert obviously in there as well. Happy everybody's tuning in. Got any questions, throw them our way. We're here for next hour.
Brogdon and Scoot together have spent 167 minutes together.
Okay, it's good amount.
Yeah. Brogdon has been the better fantasy producer. Scoot has been the higher usage player, which if you've watched Scoot, like things haven't been great for him always. He's definitely been better lately, but like he is very aggressive with the basketball. Like he is always looking to go.
He missed a lot of shots earlier this year, and you're like, oh man, this kid just can't shoot. He's been shooting better lately, and the numbers have obviously been there because of it. So
and he's $5K, and he's $5,000. He was point guard, shooting guard for most of the year. Now just point guard. Dude, I'd have a ton of interest in both Brogdon and Scoot Henderson if Simons was eventually rolled out. Just given, we know what Chauncey Billups does. Chauncey Billups, low key, is a dude like a Nick Nurse type, right? Yeah. Like just plays these kids, and that's fun. Scoot played 28 minutes with everyone healthy last game. So Scoot has a chance to play big minutes here at $5,000. He would be one of my favorite per dollar plays of the slate if Anthony Simons is ruled out. Unfortunately, it's a 10 p.m. game. But also maybe not so unfortunate. I love that 10 o'clock window. Just going to throw that out there.
I was going to say that, right? Like some slates, recently the 10 p.m. game's been the last game. We got 3 games starting after 10 o'clock here. So you can throw in an Anthony Simons in your lineup tonight because we want Anthony Simons if he's playing. Great spot for Anthony Simons here. But if he's out, you go down and you pivot to Brogdon and you pivot to Scoot, right? And you're moving some guys around. We like Podzinski. We like Bam. We like Hero tonight. Jaquez. On the Charlotte LA side, again, if LeBron and AD, one of those two get ruled out, Austin Reeves becomes in play. I know on the Charlotte side, our guy Sean Mitchell was talking to PJ Washington today. I think that could be a great call. But Gordon Hayward ruled out here tonight. They play 40 minutes a night for their starters. So definitely a lot of flexibility having the multiple 10 p.m. games on the slate here tonight. So you certainly can. And you and I talked about this the other day. And then we got into the weeds and we built our lineups. And then who was it that ended up getting ruled out? And we couldn't really make any of the pivots we needed to because we only had like one guy in there, right?
I think it was DeAndre Ayton was ruled out, and then it was like the Moses Brown starting. I remember your message was Moses in just all capital letters. And I was like, I get there. I'm stuck because I played 4 Bulls. And Andre Drummond was the only one you needed. So.
Yeah, Drummond was the only one. He might be the only one you need here tonight as well. So other point guards here. Again, we skipped around, obviously, to talk about Portland because I think it's a great spot. Albert wants to know our thoughts on Exum here. Now, we saw what happened when Luka doesn't play in these games. They went and they got absolutely obliterated when we saw Luka out of the lineup here.
In Houston.
Correct.
And now they're in Minnesota.
Yeah, in Houston, in Minnesota. I'm trying to find the actual game log. It was
Exum sat. I think Exum sat that game.
Sat one of those games too, didn't they? They lose to Denver. Was the other one maybe?
He sat it. So they lost by 50 to Houston the other day on the back-to-back that Luka sat, and they didn't have Exum. They didn't have Luka. They didn't have Kyrie. And like Dexter Dennis scored like 20 actual points for Dallas, and Omax Prosper had like a good game.
Right.
But they only lost by 26, but like they were down by like 40 at half.
Right.
So not, I mean, we had this debate the other day, right? In the Discord, with our good buddy S Penny, who was talking about it. Maybe we should have recalibrated our thoughts when it was a Luka-less Mavs and a Kyrie-less Mavs on the second leg of a back-to-back in Houston. Well, this is essentially the same spot, but like on steroids, because Minnesota is the best team in the Western Conference. Maybe you give Dallas a little bit of credit because Exum's there, but like, is Dante Exum moving the needle for you, John, tonight? Like,
no, and I also think it all depends on who, when we talk about this a lot of times, right? It's not just that like Luka was out. I think they were without a couple of pieces in those games, right?
Kyrie, Exum, yeah.
THJ, right? They were all
THJ was questionable. He was ruled in.
Okay.
But Josh Green was out. Grant Williams played. Grant Williams might have been out. Lively didn't play. Like, they were down like a ton of pieces.
Yeah, in the idea behind playing guys when like the top stars are out, or generally it's like, okay, they're on a 8-man, 9-man rotation. This player is min price, right? Playing a $3,500, $3,800 like Jaden Hardy,
right,
is different than paying a $6,500 Dante Exum, right? You got to pick and choose when to go all in just because a star player is out. Now, it also depends on the matchup, as you mentioned. There are times where a star player is out. The Pacers, for instance, tonight, they could be without Halliburton, and yet it's only a 3-point game, because they have Hield, they have Mathurin, they have Nembhard and McConnell and Turner. They have guys that can stay competitive, and you can go ahead and now play a couple of those guys because the Halliburton usage is going to spread itself out, and it's a game we still expect them to be competitive in. In these situations where Luka is very clearly their team and they're out multiple players like that, if they're not very cheap to help you then pay for a Nikola Jokic tonight or something like that, then it definitely doesn't make as much sense to just throw in for Mavs, because they're taking up a lot of your salary. So I kind of feel that way about Exum tonight. And like Hardaway and those guys where, sure, like they might score, but the more likelihood is that they get blown out and they play 24 minutes, 25 minutes, and then the real scrubs come in and like close that game out. So, not for me tonight when it comes to the Mavericks personally, but I don't know if you have any differing opinions on that, James.
No, I don't. I think it's a valid argument about, or just a valid discussion about salary. We've seen DraftKings be very proactive on back-to-backs where they're raising salaries. Like, there's no reason Jaden Hardy should be $5K.
No,
but it's a back-to-back, and they've done it all year. So,
their algo has caught on to the NBA
yes.
This year, and how those rotations work. Another instance is speaking to the Portland situation. Not to keep on like harping on it, but like if Simons gets ruled out, like I'm fine playing Scoot Brogdon and Jeremy Grant tonight, right? Like you can 3-man that still, even with their top players out of the lineup. Just a different situation. We haven't talked about Duop Breath or anybody like that. We'll get to that when we get to center. Go back up to the top tier of the point guard position. Obviously, a lot of cues. Yep. If Halliburton plays, I'm fine going with Halliburton here against Chicago. Good spot for him. I know it's a pace down, but it's pace down for every team that he plays, because they are one of the top pace teams in the league. You have point guard LeBron against Charlotte. Big spread in that game, and you have John Morant in Denver at $9,700. Assuming they all play, how would you rank the three that are in tonight?
I'd rank them how they're priced.
Okay.
Nothing really. Maybe you give LeBron the edge because he's cheaper and has the best eligibility you can have. So, but nothing really earth-shattering on like adjustments there.
All right. The tier below, again, we have Curry under 9K here against Miami. Tyler Hero at 8,400. No Lowry, no Butler here tonight. We looked that up. 29% usage rate for Tyler Hero, just out here chucking all season long, whether Butler's in or Butler's out of the lineup. Rozier's 83. Cade coming off 2 of the 3 games recently with 40 actual points scored. Kobe White, 81. Talks on the 8K range.
I mean, Curry's definitely a little interesting getting a bounce back performance here. 7 for 21 on Christmas was terrible. Obviously, a much different matchup here with Miami. Does Miami extend RJ Hampton further? Right, like that is something that they're without Lowry, and Josh Richardson is doubtful. Like their backcourt is super reeling, and it could look like Tyler Hero and RJ Hampton for extended minutes tonight. So I'm definitely interested in Stephen Curry under 9K in tournaments. Tyler Hero, you said 29% with the 4 guys out, including Richardson. It's actually in the 30s. It's a super small sample.
Sure.
They haven't necessarily played a lot without the 4 rotational pieces this year at once, but it is in the 30s. So if you want to get to Tyler Hero, I found this very interesting. Nobody's playing Miami tonight, and I get it. Like Bam is like 4%, and that I understand that more because center is so loaded. This is like the best center position of the year from top to bottom in terms of like just
no. You have a guy that just went for 24 and 25.
Yeah, in the mid tier, and then you have a guy who went for 25 and 9 at 3,900, and then you have all this good stuff mixed in between. Jokic 1.8 fantasy points per minute without Aaron Gordon this year. You have Bam, who's 1.7 fantasy producer without the 4 players. Loaded. But I don't get why Tyler Hero's not getting ownership on the same token because it's a good spot. They're very depleted in the backcourt, and he plays 38 minutes. So I really like Tyler Hero. Same thing can be said for Rozier. I have more confidence in Hero, I think, than Rozier, especially if Davis and LeBron play. I think that's a little harder for Rozier to navigate. He's just going to have like tough sledding, I think, in LA. But you could definitely get to him in tournaments because he's going to play all the minutes.
Yeah.
Cade, obviously a ceiling, but I said it to you on the pod last night, kind of joking, kind of not. Like, this is an ejection spot. 27 in a row. Guys, frustrated as heck. Almost was crying the other day after the game, after he scores like 40 and like nothing he can do more about it. And now has to deal with Derek White and Jrue Holiday. Like, that could not feel worse for him. Not really interested. Love Simons in tournaments if he plays, and Kobe White, he's what peripheral stats is he going to have with Andre Drummond? I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, he had 5 and 5 here, rebounds and assists. I know that a lot of the betting community here likes the over on his rebound plus assists prop. But like, what's more likely that he, gets you a ceiling like rebounding game here tonight, or that Andre Drummond gets another 20 rebounds? If there's a guy grabbing 20 boards, there's less rebounds to go around for the rest of the group here. So,
right.
And I think that the Hero thing, he's kind of falling a victim to just pricing, right? Like he's $8,400. There isn't, again, a ton of value on this slate unless you're, playing Duop Reith this evening. But even if you are, you have Jamal Murray that's cheaper than him. You now have Malcolm Brogdon that's cheaper than him. You have Derek White that is cheaper than him at the same exact position. So, if they're looking like, okay, who can I get 45 fantasy points out of, 40 plus fantasy points out of this year? You can get that from Murray, Brogdon, and White, given their spots, and they're all saving you $1,000+. And I think that's why nobody is on Tyler Hero. So if you want to like late stack the 10 p.m. games, Hero's a great chase down guy. I mean, this is a game tonight that has a pretty good game total. It's supposed to be competitive here. I'm not. Who's to say Tyler Hero doesn't give you 50 fantasy points on this night? And I was telling you and Sean in our little group DM there, I was getting Tyler Hero in the 4th round of his battle royals today. I was like, why? Why is he being so disrespected? So it's not just DraftKings, Underdog. Nobody was really taking him over there either. So I'm curious to see how it all plays out tonight.
Agreed.
We mentioned a bunch of 7K guys: Jamal Murray, Derek White, Malcolm Brogdon. For me, are the top 3. No disrespect to Devin Vassell, who's obviously in a good spot against Portland at 7K, but I think I would rank him as those guys are priced as well.
I'd probably rank them exactly how they're priced as well. I'd throw Jrue Holiday in that mix as well. Sure. Jrue Holiday's been really freaking good.
The blowout is obviously my biggest worry with Boston.
For sure.
But they could also just play 30 minutes and call it a night, and have all their stats by then. So
they all have, like, if you want to just like without Brown this year, Derek White leads the team in fantasy points per minute,
Shocker.
1.38 to Tatum's 1.37. So it's like 0.01 difference, but still.
His defensive numbers just make up for a lot of it.
Yep. And Holiday's 1.07. Interesting to see Porzingis take a huge hit without Jaylen Brown, but that's actually been like a big talking point that I've heard, how much Brown and Porzingis have specifically been working together this year, because Brown has a very good ability like in two-man game, and he has a good ability like off the ball, and Porzingis is elite in the post. So like that makes sense that Porzingis and the numbers suggest it, like negative everything, usage rate down, field goal percentage down, effective field goal percentage down 19% without Jaylen Brown this year. Like, so it would be the three guys for me in Boston, and then like maybe even some fast PP if you do project blowout.
Yeah, for sure. And I wonder if that thing with Porzingis has to do with the fact that, you know, when Tatum, Brown, and Porzingis are on the floor, the defense is spread out a little bit more thin. When Jaylen Brown's off the floor, the focus is now on Porzingis and Tatum and things like that. So the defense clamps down on them a little bit more. Guys under 7K here. You mentioned Drew Holiday kind of in that top grouping. McCollum at 68. You have Colin Sexton starting still, or we expect to start still at $6,300. We've talked Dante Exum here, Jaden Ivey, assuming Killian Hayes is in or out of the lineup. Any priorities in this range for you?
None,
yeah.
THT is back tonight too, John. Like, just makes everything so much worse. It's just Utah's not going to get any better. It's like the minutes are not going to get any. Like, I have a hard time believing, just based on what we've seen from Will Hardy this year, head coach of the Utah Jazz, that like we're just going to keep seeing 30 minutes out of like Sexton and 30 minutes from Clarkson and like Chris Dunn in the rotation. Cause like he was really good before he had his little foot injury.
Yeah. They even won a couple of games there.
Yeah. Is he just not going to play? So I am really just like not interested in Utah outside of Lauri Markkanen.
Yeah. What's the, I had it up a little bit ago. What's the spread in that game right now?
8.5.
So I was wondering if you thought like a healthier Utah team would make this game a bit more competitive, because they are basically going in there with their full lineup. Because we do have sort of some value on the Pelican side here. You know, does that make you any more interested on the New Orleans side if this game was to be a bit more competitive, or is it, like we mentioned this morning, you know, anybody is sort of liable on that offense to go through? Now Zion is clearly the fantasy point per minute like monster of that group, but you have Ingram coming off of a huge game. You know, the McCollum price is just something I keep going back to because it's rare to see him under 7K.
Yeah, I mean, if you play New Orleans, like, I would not fault you. They're actually getting some ownership today because I think the field realized, like, good spot, underpriced kind of everywhere. So if you want to get to New Orleans, by all means, definitely prefer that side of the game. That's for sure.
Yep. The under 6K tier, I think, is where you and I have some favorites here. Podziemski, point guard, shooting guard, $5,700, coming off of 240 plus fantasy point games. You know, would love to see him score a little bit more, but I mean, these secondary numbers, you know, 5 steals, probably hard to come by again, but I mean, the rebounding and assists are pretty legit. I think we can count on seeing those. And if we get double-digit scoring like we have under 6K, where you only need to get 5X tonight, 20.5 fantasy points, you know, pretty doable for him here now that he's in that starting lineup. So you got him against Miami, which hasn't been kind of that great of a defensive team this year like they've been in years past. You have Nembhard potentially now, if Halliburton sits out. You know, everybody played Nembhard at 5K the other day. If now Halliburton's out, Nembhard kind of becomes kind of an interesting spot. You have Marcus Smart here, played 30 minutes off the rip. Could have no John Morant in this lineup against Denver. So some interesting pieces here under 6K.
Yeah, this is a very interesting tier, and Scoot for that matter at 5K as well. Like,
yeah, Scoot, yeah,
it's all kind of good. You know, Smart obviously has I would say definitively has the toughest spot, 5,400 in Denver, possibly without Ja. And we've seen Memphis how bad they are without Ja Morant this year.
Yeah,
like if Ja doesn't play, it wouldn't surprise me if that game kind of got out of hand. If Denver's starting lineup does what it did the other day on Christmas, like it wouldn't shock me to see Memphis get blown out.
Yeah, we saw this version of Memphis earlier this year. It sucked.
No, it's very bad.
Like,
even with Smart. I mean, Smart played 11 games. Like it's so I'm I really like the price. I really like the minutes for Smart in the first game. I almost prefer Ja to be back to get to Marcus Smart just because I think the competitive nature of that game would be more likely. Nembhard is really interesting. I would be incredibly curious, and Podziemski, obviously, we both love him, but I'm incredibly curious if Halliburton were to sit. Do you think that they just simply keep the starting lineup with Nembhard and Jalen Smith and then just plug McConnell in, who's 4,300? Or do you think that they stagger Nembhard, like they'll just go back to like a Mathurin, or they'll go back to, because you have Nembhard essentially could just start at point guard, right? Like you don't need to plug McConnell, or you go back to an Obi Toppin, or you go like, what do you think India, like let's just, Halliburton's ruled out. What do you think the starting lineup is?
I think Nembhard starts for him, and I think they keep it as it is.
Well, Nembhard's been starting. So do you're saying McConnell starts for him? Because they've been starting Nembhard at the 2.
Right. So you think Mathurin re-enters the starting lineup then?
Well, I'm just curious because like we've seen McConnell and Nembhard not start together earlier in the year, but also Nembhard wasn't starting at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like it'd be difficult to see two have both their starting point guard, both would be their point guards in the same starting lineup. So Mathurin 26% usage rate with Bruce Brown and Tyrese Halliburton off the floor this year. So would be pretty nice. TJ McConnell, no surprise probably to anybody, 1.4 fantasy points per minute.
He'd be 70%. He would be 75% owned tonight.
Yeah, Nembhard's 1.06 is still a pretty good fantasy point per minute play. Jalen Smith's 1.2. So it would be pretty interested to see where these where that lineup ends up coming out. Buddy Hield just 0.9, Neesmith 0.8. Really down at the bottom there. Obi Toppin 0.8. So the wing players definitely get a big boost without Halliburton and Brown off the floor. And a decent sample size, 200-minute sample size for Mathurin. So I talked Mathurin a little bit about being a nice play. Had Halliburton been ruled out, just sort of, you want that GPP tournament upside, right? I mean, he's popped twice in the last 4 or 5 games. Certainly could see that. So I'll be interested to see where the starting lineup goes. But to your point, McConnell's down here at 4,400. Have to assume he would get this like 20-minute range, right?
Yes.
So
that's enough. That's enough.
That is, 100%.
It's enough.
You mentioned Scoot already. We're in, playing the role he's playing anyways. He's been productive, so perfectly fine going there. Anybody else for point guard for you?
I mean, RJ Hampton's gonna play. He might even start, but I would not go that direction. He's got an incredibly low floor. I'm mentioning it, 3,400. Like when you see a Heat starting lineup that likely has RJ Hampton in it, don't be fooled.
I gotta get your thoughts here because we have his name in the chat and we're hitting up shooting guard small forward right here as it is. Nico asking on Cody Martin. When we did the show this morning, I thought there was gonna be a lot more love on Cody Martin value with Hayward out tonight, and yet he's sitting here under 10%. Cody Martin sitting down here just $3,800. Played 25 minutes, gave you 23 fantasy points. He filled out the stat sheet. Are you surprised that there aren't as many people getting to Cody Martin here tonight if you're, playing some value?
I think it has to do with Brandon Miller because Brandon Miller missed last game as well. And then Hayward got hurt, right? Or Hayward didn't. I think Hayward got hurt in that game.
Hayward got hurt in that game, yeah.
So then they were down Miller and Hayward. And I'm not saying Cody Martin won't be a part of the rotation. I just think with Miller back, they're going to prioritize playing Brandon Miller over Cody Martin.
Yeah,
right?
I guess my question is more so if McGowan starts again, like Cody Martin's still your first guy off the bench here, right? Like,
yeah, he might even, there's a scenario where he just
comes off the bench and plays more than McGowan.
Plays more than McGowan's, which he did last game.
Because he had been hurt this whole time, and he came back 17 minutes first game, 25 minutes the next game. Like, they're not really slowing the ramp here. They're kind of playing him out here, and they like Cody Martin. So Yeah, I do. Bauer saying he's popular on FanDuel tonight. Yeah, the FanDuel rostership, again, on a slate where you can play a lot of multiple guys. Cody Martin sitting here around 30%. So some good value over on FanDuel tonight for sure. Thoughts on Sam Hauser getting 40% love on FanDuel, James?
I'm updating ownership, by the way, right now as well.
Yep.
So I looked earlier today. He started in the one game JB missed earlier in the year. He started, was a non-factor as we, have looked at on multiple.
Yeah, he's not good as a starter. So.
He doesn't start. 3 for 9 shooting, 2 for 8 from 3, 8 points. He played 35 minutes.
Yeah.
But you and I talked about it last night. And when we were going through it, I was like, 5K for Sam Hauser? No shot.
Yeah.
And that has not changed for me in the slightest bit. Like, if I lose to a 5K Sam Hauser who has done nothing as a starter this year, then tip of the old ball cap, right?
Yeah. I'm far more likely to play Payne Pritchard tonight.
Agreed.
If I'm looking for a value Celtic.
Fully agree.
Because like where's Sam Hauser's shots coming when he's playing with Tatum, Porzingis, White, and Drew Holiday, right? Like, you know, he's not demanding the ball like Jaylen Brown would. So
where are they even coming with Payton Pritchard?
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, I mean, that's because Payton Pritchard gets on the floor and he chucks.
Yeah.
The difference between Sam Hauser and Payton Pritchard is the ball's in Payton Pritchard's hands. He's the point guard, right? So shooting guard position here, you have Anthony Edwards, but now that's a matchup without Luka. I don't really find that all too appealing. You have the dual position eligibility for a lot of these guys we've discussed already. Desmond Bane's the one we haven't yet talked about. You and I, we said we didn't want to play Desmond Bane at 8,700 that first game back with Ja because we didn't think it was going to go that well, and it didn't. And then we just kept on talking about it, and all he's done is give us 52, 59, and 47.
Is that good?
If Ja plays tonight, do you like Desmond Bane at 81?
I mean, it has to be something that we consider. If he's
going to get the easier defensive matchup, right? KCP probably chases around John Morant if he's in.
Something we got to consider. I mean, he sees probably Justin Holiday here, little Michael Porter Jr. mixed in there. Like, there's going to be whoever, maybe Peyton Watson could be a guy Desmond Bane is guarded by. So there is, which wouldn't be the best because Peyton Watson's,
good defender,
a good defender, and but like we said on the show, if he's going to take double-digit threes every game and space the floor for Memphis and not even have to be like that good at him, but making 5, I mean, who's to say he's not scoring 30 a night, living off like, because Ja's just drawing, kicking all the attention on, and then Desmond Bane, like, oh, hey, when you were gone, I was 25, 5, and 5, by the way. So yeah, I mean, it's a great price for a guy that continues to be good, even with Ja back. So I'm okay with it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Anybody else down here in this mid-tier range?
Anyone else in the mid-tier? I mean, Brandon Ingram, someone we talked about, or you just blanket statement, New Orleans. Like, if you land on Brandon Ingram, so be it, right? Like, it's not a bad thing to have Brandon Ingram in your lineup against Utah and a 239.5 total. We mentioned Derek White. We mentioned Vassell. Clarkson is interesting. Just naturally, he had massive foul. He fouled out of a game that he came off the bench in 27 minutes. Like, maybe triple doubles in that game.
That's what I'm super curious about, right? Because coming off the bench, but he's still giving you good secondary stats, something we haven't always seen from Jordan Clarkson. He scored 30 off the bench in 30 minutes. He's taken 22 and 17 shots. He was well on his way to another 20 plus shots in that San Antonio game. And now we have a price drop, $6,900 today.
Nice. I'm interested in Jordan Clarkson. I mean, again, we said it the other day. I think that there's like, who's safe in minutes? Clarkson, Markkanen, and then now with THC back, it's like, you get minutes. But like, Laurie's going to play 30. Clarkson's going to play 30 if he doesn't foul out in 27 minutes, apparently. And then everyone else, if they're playing well, they get more minutes. Like, Walker Kessler's not playing. Kelly O's starting. John Collins played like 15 minutes the other day. Like, it's a mess. So I think Jordan Clarkson in tournaments makes a whole lot of sense.
Yep, I agree with you. Other mid-tier plays, again, I would like Austin Reeves if LeBron or AD, something like that, was ruled out. 28 minutes, though, I mean, he's still getting decent run, but the ceiling's a little bit higher at $6,800. I think I would need one of those guys to be ruled out to get there. Any of these other guys below them, I mean, THT's here, Clay, Healed, Brandon Miller could be back, you mentioned. Anybody down this range?
I mean, it all depends on how you're approaching Dallas. If you want to get to Hardaway, he has a massive usage rate. Plus 16% without Luka and Kyrie this year.
Mm-hmm.
Percent usage increase, which is unheard of, right? Like that, but that doesn't matter if they're losing by 40. He's not going to play 20 minutes. If they're losing by 40 in the third quarter, look at the Houston game. Took 20 shots in 26 minutes. Yeah, he was great. This happens, though. When guys are shooting dependent, he's not like peripherally sound. He's set up by Luka. He doesn't have Luka to set him up in this spot. So that was my argument the last time we looked at THJ specifically in that game. I would rather play like Clay or Buddy Hield over THJ today. Brandon Miller is a little bit interesting because he's just another Hornet that's going to play massive minutes if he's active. Pajemski, we talked about 5,700. I'm not a big Duncan Robinson fan, or at least like playing Duncan Robinson. I do have interest in Duncan Robinson tonight.
The minutes will be there.
He's just going to be there. Like, they're down 4 rotational pieces. Yes, they probably give minutes to RJ Hampton. Yes, Jamal Cain probably plays tonight. Like, those two guys, you're like, why are they here? Like, Haywood Highsmith off the injury report probably plays minutes. But Duncan Robinson has been really good all year, and you've been saying it all year. And I definitely didn't like Duncan Robinson moving back to the bench, and that obviously the minutes have taken a big hit. But look at the Philly game, 34 minutes in a game that Caleb Martin gets hurt, in a game that they were without Jimmy, John Christensen, like basically the same rotation they have tonight in that game. So 5,700, another Heat guy that no one's playing. And if Duncan Robinson is getting open looks off Bam and Hero kicks, right? Like, dude, I mean, this is a guy who has made 4 threes or more in 3 straight games. This is a guy who has made 6 threes in a game this year, who has 26 actual on multiple occasions. So I like Duncan Robinson quite a bit.
Yeah, my problem with Highsmith is just the low usage rate for that guy.
Oh, he's such a zero.
There's such a low floor with him. So, I mean, yes, he's overlooked, but like we just said, the entire Heat team is overlooked. So, better off maybe going the Jaquez or Duncan Robinson route.
Right.
To try to save a little bit of money than punting with Highsmith. I think there are better options for value tonight, personally there.
I'd almost rather and Highsmith is like a good defender, and we saw like he had a couple of good offensive games. Like, I'd almost rather use like Jamal Cain over Hayward Highsmith, because Jamal Cain's just out there just being active, being aggressive. Not that I'm saying I'd play either of them really, but not like in love with either.
Yep. Would you play Champagne if he's in lineup again?
He doesn't make shots. Who's to say Malachi Branham isn't playing all the minutes?
Fair.
I'm going to let the field have that one. Ownership updated over at fantasylearn.com, by the way.
Cool. Small forward. Where does JT rank for you tonight, sir?
Should I have a different opinion?
Probably not. I mean, we've talked about this with Jason Tatum. He scores 30 actual. He's only giving you 43, 41. I mean, everybody else on the team is so good. He has to almost score 40.
Yes.
To
correct.
Like, now, can he do this on a random Thursday in Boston? Sure. A random Monday in Charlotte, he gave us 77.
Shout out random Monday in Charlotte.
So, but that's what you need out of him. 35 actually gave you 56. Like, that's just paying off the price tag. So you need Jason Tatum to just go out there and be like, you know what? I'm only feeling 3/4 tonight. Let's just get this one over with.
Correct.
And just don't miss. Now, he could do it. I mean, who's defending him tonight? Bojan?
He did it in Charlotte last year.
Yeah, right.
They scored 40 for 50 actual in 3 quarters.
3 quarters. So he can do it. I agree with you, though. I don't think I get to Tatum unless I'm building out multiple lineups tonight. It's not that I don't think he's a good player. I just think that you're going to get 5x. You're going to get 4.5x tonight. So his ceiling is 10. Ceiling probably a little less than that, but still, like, he can go for 60 tonight. I just think that the range of outcomes probably has him more in the lower end than the higher end here. Talked LBJ, obviously, at point guard. You have Lauri Markkanen at 84, back-to-back 50 bombs for Lauri Markkanen at 8,400. You have DeRozan coming off a down game. The Andre Drummond, can't be overlooked what his impact was in that starting lineup. They're at 83. The dual eligibility for Bane obviously puts me, I think, over DeRozan personally. Where are your thoughts here in this 8K range for small forward?
Interesting to see the ownership update that we just got. DeMar DeRozan, second highest projected small forward of the day.
Yeah, people like the pace, obviously, in this game, and now they're favorites. Right.
And now they're favorites. He's actually the 4th highest owned player of the entire slate. Second on his team, but 4th overall. I'm like, nothing really changed, and this is the Atlanta matchup all over again. Essentially, pace up spot. Really bad defense. Like, Indiana just does not care about defense in any capacity. They just try to outscore you. Maybe that changes without Halliburton because they probably can't outscore you without him. And obviously McConnell is better defensively than Halliburton is. But, like, he got 25 actual, which is shocking to see. And, like, if you watch that game, you're just like, there's no way DeMar DeRozan scored 25 in that game, and you're like, oh no, he did.
40 minutes were good.
That's another, like, he's gonna be on the floor. They have a massive pace up spot. It's just the same exact analysis we gave the other day. I like him. I think that there's obviously room for 50, but he has 2 rebounds, and that's not surprising if Andre Drummond goes 20-20 again. And the assists were a little down, and you got, 47% scoring. He hit 2 threes. He had 7 free throws. He scored 25, which is above his average. 39 fantasy points. So, like, maybe it's a cash play more than it is a tournament play. You have a very safe floor. If you want to play him in tournaments, by all means. But, like, would I rather play a chalky Michael Porter today, John? I would. $6,100. I feel better about a ceiling on Michael Porter at 61 than I do about DeRozan at 83 with the ceiling.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's fair. Michael Porter is the one I have a lot of interest in. Obviously, the field has a lot of interest in here today as well. Just the recent production obviously has been pretty good. Now you take Aaron Gordon off the floor, could see more rebounds potentially go his way. He's scoring. And then if you want to look at Denver, I mean, Marcus Smart could be just all over Jamal Murray tonight. Right? Like, better matchup, for MPJ here, I think, on the wing. So
agreed. And I didn't obviously skip over JJJ, the real JJJ.
Sure.
Jaime Jaquez Jr. At 6,300, but he's got to be somewhat interesting, right? As, like, well, maybe I don't have the money to get to Bam Hero. But 6,300 for a guy who's coming off 39 minutes and 31 and 10 last game might be in my player pool tonight.
Yeah, I mean, hard to argue. Obviously, he's been playing a bunch of minutes for them all season long as it is. Yep. So you look at sort of that production there and the ceilings we've seen out of him a couple of times. Obviously, 51's been the best, but a good spot for him for sure. Anybody else down here under 6K that you'd maybe have some interest in?
Under $6,000, John.
Kuminga, Jaden McDaniels, maybe in a blowout spot. Talk D-Rob already. Anybody?
Not particularly. I mean, Mathurin, if he starts, would be a little bit intriguing for sure. Wiggins could be a guy that, like, you don't know what to make of this situation because if he doesn't make his shots, Golden State could just play Jonathan Kuminga. But if he does, maybe they play them both together,
Right.
or maybe he usurps Kuminga on a given night, right? So we've seen in 2 of the last 3 nights, Wiggins has made all his shots, 22 and 25 actual, 30 and 42. The price is super appealing to get to 4,900. And you mentioned Miami's defense just like not being that good.
Yeah.
I mean, they're 16th in the month of December in defensive rating. 16th on like any Eric Spoelstra team in the past would be like death sentence because they just like wouldn't be good enough, I think, offensively. Obviously, Hero's better this year. Bam is leaps and bounds better than he's ever been offensively.
Right.
Jaquez's addition has been tremendous for them. So this is not like an old Miami team where you can't score on them. 4,900 for Wiggins is really appealing for me.
What's your take again? Kind of looking at some of the recent rostership updates there. You know, a lot of the field is playing Justin Holiday at $3,200. Is that like a spot that you're comfortable going? I mean, we've seen him start a few times. Hasn't given you anything. So why is 25% of the field coming to us here? Is it do they remember these games versus the more recent games where he's played a bunch of minutes? Like, what's your feeling here?
Well, it's funny because those games, like, let's have a conversation about it. And I posted it on Twitter earlier today, and I said, like, let's talk about good chalk, bad chalk. Those games earlier in the year, John, were Jokic and nobody else on that team, if you remember correctly.
Yep.
Michael Porter was in. There was no Gordon. There was no Murray. Like, yeah, there was decent Justin Holiday games. But now you're seeing with a healthy team, he hasn't been able to sniff 14 fantasy points. Like, he's a 0.7 fantasy point per minute guy that even benefits from 0.7 from when all of those players were out. And there's not a big enough sample. It's like an 8-minute sample with the core of guys that are on this team that you can't even use as like data. Jokic, Murray, Porter. Like, you can't use that data definitively as like gospel. I get it. It's 3,200, and you've talked about it a couple times. Like, it's hard to find value.
Yeah,
but
I'd rather just play Cody Martin again.
I would just
not even knowing the role Cody Martin's playing. I feel like I'd rather play Cody Martin there.
I agree. I mean, I agree, and I don't think it's all that close. And it's hard to like sit here and say Cody Martin's going to have 5 blocks and steals in the time that he is on the floor again. But like, he took 8 shots in 25 minutes. It's not like he was just not active. He had 2 rebounds. He had 2 assists. Like, he's a fairly decent basketball player that
I mean, we saw Caleb Martin be a late bloomer, right? And his twin brothers right here, you know?
Right.
So.
And maybe Caleb Martin's out tonight because he's actually playing in a Hornets uniform tonight as Cody Martin. Thought about that? Have you thought about that?
I haven't thought about that, but you know, that's something to consider. Mm-hmm. We saw Cody Martin in 21-22 play 26 minutes a night, average over a steal per game. You know, again, it wasn't like a super efficient play, but you know, 48% from the field, 38% from 3, 7.7 points, 4 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 1.2 steals off their bench. Obviously now different kind of rotation, different team, a lot more kind of go about here, but you know, definitely think there's some interest there. Our guy Bowers in the chat wants to know if we had to choose one on FanDuel for Scoot Henderson, Andrew Nembhard, TJ McConnell. You know, where would you go this evening?
I mean, that's kind of a interesting question because McConnell is obviously contingent on. So this is like contingent. Everyone's out, I assume, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah. I mean, he's
Simons
out for sure.
And Simons, probably.
Yeah, I mean, probably, but you'll only know one before the other.
Let's see. What is McConnell's price on FanDuel? Indiana, McConnell is 5,200. So you're getting zero discount.
He's more expensive than Nembhard on FanDuel.
If McConnell starts, he would be my option. He would be my pick there because he's just an insane person when it comes to fantasy.
You'll at least get the Pacers news. Yes. You know, if you set that lineup, obviously be around the late swap. What's the Scoot price? How close are they?
Scoot is Portland.
Scoot's 53. So they're all kind of the same price. So I would say, like, put McConnell in because you can always pivot down to Nembhard if Halliburton's in. But make sure you leave yourself at least $100 because if Halliburton's in, maybe you feel better with Scoot off the bench.
Yes.
So
and I would say that is how I would do it. McConnell is the play if Halliburton's out. I think Scoot. I would prefer Scoot over Nembhard if Halliburton plays.
Yep, that's kind of where I'm at. Power forward position here. AD at 10K up at the top, dual positional eligibility. Victor Wembanyama. We have here $8,700. Power forward center. We think he is going to play 30 minutes tonight because he's already been ruled out essentially for the Friday. We don't know though. We don't know where he's going.
I don't. That's I projected him today at 28 minutes. And I feel like I was being nice doing
that.
Yeah. And I don't it's just he's been limited. And for an ankle, but now he's not on the injury report.
This is like a rest designation too.
Yeah.
So not on the injury report for rest and not going to play Friday.
Which does that make sense?
Should be a 30-minute game. 30 minutes for him tonight.
Should be
against Duop Reith and Moses Brown. Like this should be a ceiling clinic game for Wembanyama. Which is kind of why I'm surprised so many people are playing Duop Reith. Don't we consider Wembanyama to be a little bit of a difficult matchup for most?
For most, yeah. I think it's more so like everyone is scared that there's a limit. And if there's, like, let's say Wemby matches last game, 24 minutes. That means 24 minutes of Zach Collins. That means 24 minutes of not Wemby. And
Zach Collins in a revenge return to Portland game, though? I mean...
Sure. They're just a bad, like... They're just a bad defense. Like, I mean, Wemby's been this good, right? And they're still a bottom 5 defense in the NBA.
No, I know.
That's insane. That's insane.
Nico wants to know our ownership for Bam versus Drummond. I mean, nobody's playing really either of them on FanDuel. So I think fewer are on Bam than they are Drummond tonight, I think.
Bam is, so the new update, Bam is on FanDuel 13% owned, and Drummond is 12%.
Yeah.
Everyone is just plugging Jalen Smith at $4,200. And this is why I say center is just a mess because Jalen Smith started at power forward last game.
Yeah. I mean, I would say I like Drummond anyways on FanDuel. He gives you, some decent defensive stats and you're saving $800. So I would go Drummond over Bam there. Other power forwards here, once we get past Wemby, with all the guys we've talked about, you have Porzingis at 78, Miles Bridges 78, Zion's at 77, Triple J, Jeremy Grant. How are you feeling about the mid-tier range?
Zinger, This is a 27-minute game incoming for sure. This is like what Milwaukee did last night with their minutes, where like everyone just like low 30s, some starters barely touch 30s against Brooklyn. That's incoming because Boston's gonna rout Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
Miles Bridges is gonna play 40 minutes. Gonna take a lot of shots. And if they fall, there's a solid ceiling there.
I mean, if he hits like 2 more threes, he's got 50 fantasy points in both of those games.
50 fantasy points. Yep. Zion is underpriced for a guy that has, as dominant of upside as he can, like as anyone else. Like when Zion's going to the rim and there's nothing anyone could do about it, he's as unstoppable as anyone else. It's just like, can he stay out of foul trouble? Can he stay on the floor for 33 minutes in a night? Endurance has obviously been an issue. So love Zion's price. Definitely a tournament only play. Jeremy Grant's obviously super appealing. The minutes are a little weird, right? Like Jabari Walker's minutes have been up lately. Mm-hmm. What do you think of the minutes that he's played? Because like these are pretty competitive out. I mean, the Golden State game was standing.
Yeah, I mean, they lost to Sacramento, but they beat Sacramento by 17.
That's fair.
They lost to Golden State by 20 when they were in competitive games against Washington, Phoenix, Golden State. He played 32, 36, 41. So I'm fine there. I'm pulling up what his usage rate is. I'm about to see this. So he's only $100 cheaper on. I thought I looked at his arm at 82, but if he's 89, I still think I lean Drummond though over Bam in that spot.
Jeremy Grant 24% usage rate without Sharp, Simons, and Aiden. Yeah. If Simons were to be out, 24%, 0.91 fantasy points per minute.
Okay, I'm fine going there at $6,900.
Nice.
Let's see. Get PJ Washington, Jaquez, a lot of guys we talked about. Patrick Reed, Naz Reed. Anybody down here for you value-wise for power forward?
Patrick Reed, the golfer, I would not play.
Oh, sorry, Patrick Williams and Naz Reed. There you go.
Combine two players. That would be a pretty good player. If Naz Reed had Patrick Williams' defense, he'd probably be starting on a lot of teams. If Naz Reed had Patrick Williams' offense, probably would be starting a lot of teams. This whole tier is just so. Like, could we see Osor Thompson start tonight, 5,100? Yeah, but like, what's the confidence in his?
Yeah, there's no Stewart, right? So
no Stewart. I've said it a bunch. You and I have talked about Rui Hachimura a lot lately. Like, I'm not afraid to play him, even with AD and LeBron active, because he's been their first man off the bench and he's playing 29, 30, 34 minutes in 3 straight games. Like, I'm not afraid getting there, so I would go back to in a coming after a game where he couldn't make shots.
Listen, I love the minutes when these guys are all active, right? These aren't like people out minutes. You got 29 minutes against Boston with LeBron and AD in the lineup. Now you're getting Charlotte, which is a pretty good matchup for them. So I agree with you. I didn't find a lot of value at power forward tonight that I loved. Hachimura certainly fit the bill. Was there anybody else for you? Like, if Watson was the start tonight, would you play him at $3,800?
Yeah, I'd be more likely to play Peyton Watson than I would Justin Holiday. I will say, like, he also isn't the best fantasy producer and is clearly the 5th option on that team, like, offensively, right? I mean, even with Case, we didn't mention KCP, by the way, 4,600. That's a really good price, but Peyton Watson very clearly would be the 5th option. Now, he does have essentially a 40 fantasy point game on his resume that Justin Holiday does not have. That's something to be said. He is definitely really good defensively. He can space the floor pretty well at times. He's only shooting 34% from 3 this year, but he almost 60% recently. So, like, that's fine. Jabari Walker, maybe 4,200, potentially power forward, center. 2 of the last 3 games, he's had ceiling performances.
Yeah.
The 3 or 4 games surrounding that, he has had floor performances. So you're kind of getting what, there's a very, very large range of outcomes with Jabari Walker.
Sure. Center position, we have the Joker today. Gets this matchup against Memphis. Feels pretty good, but not a lot of people are playing him, at least at the last check. Do you find yourself paying up tonight for center?
So, like, he's the 3rd highest center projected, but it doesn't matter because 50% of the field's playing Duop Reith and 35% of the field's playing Andre Drummond. So you're essentially, I've thought about this all day long, because I looked at Denver's numbers without Aaron Gordon. I was like, man, why are we not playing a guy who has 2 fantasy points per minute without Aaron Gordon? 2, not 1. Not 1.5, not 1.7, 2. 250-minute sample, 2. It's like...
It's because he's 11-3.
I know. But, like, you could get there.
37.5% usage rate, 1.98 fantasy points per minute without Aaron Gordon on the floor.
That's... And this is why it was when we were talking about center earlier. I think that this is the best center position from top to bottom of the year, because you can't there's no like wrong answer. Like, if you end up on Nikola Jokic, it would not be surprising if he goes for 75 to 80 fantasy points. Nobody on Memphis they have Bismack. That's foul trouble waiting to happen. They have Jaren Jackson. We don't have to tell you what his deal is. And he's two of the last 3 years, this has been the MVP of the league, right?
We're literally debating the merits of a guy that's almost averaging a triple-double at center, being like, you know what? I don't know. Like,
but then you have 2020 for $4,000 less.
Yeah.
And you have 25 and 9, which
it wasn't just 2022. It was 5+ blocks.
Yeah, 5 blocks, which he's good at. He does that. And then Bam is in the best form of his career with, I won't say the team by himself, but like him and Tyler Hero team by themselves.
Yep.
And like Kevon Looney is like turned into like a statue. He can't move.
What's their center rotation today? Davis, Saric, Looney. Dude. Like, no, there's no Draymond. So that takes away from any real defense on Bam here. Like, feels like a great spot for him.
It is. And then, another wrinkle is Jalen Smith, center only, has been started at power forward last game.
Yeah.
Incredible fantasy point per minute guy. Look at that. 29.5 fantasy points in 23 minutes last game with foul trouble early on in that game.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we be interested in that either, right? Like if he stays out of foul trouble, there's 40 fantasy point upside there. Like it's kind of a loaded center position. I'm not really.
And then everybody's playing a guy who may not start tonight.
I mean, yeah. And what if that guy doesn't go 9 of, and I put this on, I'm not going to say this is Paul Reed versus Mo Bamba all over again, right? We see the other night versus Miami. Paul Reed starts, gets in massive foul trouble. Mo Bamba comes in, massive ceiling game. Congrats, Mo Bamba. You're the winner. Last night, Paul Reed starts, stays out of foul trouble mostly. In the first half, he was in foul trouble. Second half, absolutely crushes the slate, 40 fantasy points. Mo Bamba irrelevant because Paul Reed stayed out of foul trouble. I'm not saying Moses Brown was ever in foul trouble, but what if Duop Reith goes 2 of 7 to start this game? Is he still playing 32 minutes and Moses Brown's playing 16? Or is that like a 26-22 split? And if it's a 26-22 split, how many rebounds is Moses Brown getting in that?
And is he going to hit all 9 of his shots?
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting debate. I'm not saying Duop Reith is a bad value because he is a very good fantasy point per minute guy without DeAndre Ayton this year. But the likelihood of 9 for 15 again feels
low.
Feels low. And we've said that a lot this year. And we've been like
wrong more often than not.
We've been wrong. We've been wrong before.
The NAW game,
NAW game. We've said about Derek White making like 7 threes again. He made like 8 threes the next day or whatever it was. So it's a really, really, really strong center position overall. And then there's like guys who you have like multi-position eligibility, like Wemby and Anthony Davis. I don't know if you saw his ownership earlier today was like super popular. He's not anymore, but he's I believe on FanDuel. Is he really popular still? The update? No, he's fallen off the cliff. So no ownership on Anthony Davis.
You want to build a lineup?
Yeah.
Where's our start?
Drummond?
Works for me. Drummond, what? Podzinski? Scoot.
And we have, and again, like, I'm really not playing Detroit. I'm not playing Detroit, Boston. So like, I'm going to have the slate at my disposal. My slate starts at 8:00 tonight, really.
All right. This is what I plugged in right now. Henderson, Pod, Martin, Drummond. What's our next play?
With 7K remaining.
Porter, probably.
Yeah, MPJ.
7,300. You can get a spend up. Do you want Hero? Do you want a double center with Bam? Do you want to go Wemby?
I'm not as high in Wemby as you, and that's probably to my own detriment. But
I'm just taking a leap of faith that they'll give him minutes tonight.
Oh, John, trusting Popovich.
I know. We got. We're playing Scoop, but Brogdon's obviously down here. Derek White, 71.
I want to play a second. I feel like center, like getting to Bam or to. What if we played Reith?
If we played Joker, we got 5,300 a play.
Ooh, which obviously you have McConnell like looming, right? If Halliburton's rolled out, you have McConnell as an option.
Yeah, you could throw Nembhard in and pivot down.
KCP, 4,600 is like
You want to go 3 Denver guys?
No Aaron Gordon. Pretty good spot. I don't think we're not playing Justin Holiday, so that's
No.
don't even.
What's our low 5K forward looking like here?
Matherin?
Hachimura? And that gives the 5,800 guard. Duncan
Robinson.
Yep. We fit the Joker pretty easily here.
Now just do a pivot. Go to like Jokic to Bam or Jokic to like Duop Reith or something. If we were to play just chalk, right? Just plug in chalk.
I mean, we'd have all the money in the world. So DeRozan, I guess you said it's super chalk, $9,800.
This is the cashiest build of all time, or
hero, I guess. We got off pod. We got a small forward, 52. I don't know. Hauser, Ben Matherin.
Can't believe Hauser's so popular in FanDuel.
I still think Hachimura probably fits that build. Honestly, get DeRozan small forward. If you want to go there, right? Super chalk.
Yeah.
So a couple example lineups for everybody. Dylan's playbook is out. Nick, we got an NFL show coming at 7:00. I will throw you the link to that right now. Myself and Andrew Cooper will be live at 7:00 Eastern time, giving you all your start sit questions for tonight's slate. So come back at 7. We'll help you out there with the the NFL show. Myself and Andrew Cooper. For now, everybody, though, go check out Dylan's playbook. Get in the Discord. We just got Fantecchio news. That's not the news I'm looking for.
I know. I heard the vibrate. I'm like, are we gonna get Halliburton as we're signing off?
It would be great. We'll be in the Discord for all the updates. Everybody, talk to you tomorrow. Good luck with your Lions tonight. We'll talk to you later.